Hello Team FD and welcome back to Sunday Vibes in the pub, donning the shirt that he wore in his first FD video. Or was it an EFD Top 10?
It was an EFD Top 10, indeed.
It is Doogie Critchley and Patrick Van Straten, fresh from the Barbers.
What's up, man?
Oh God.
The Huffman.
A curveball. I was just
Felicity
explaining.
Huffman.
I was just explaining to Patrick off camera that I'm reclaiming the tucked-in white T-shirt from fascists. So some statements on this week's episode.
Go for
I
it.
think fascists are just reclaiming you.
Let's get into the burning questions before we discuss fascism any further. Maybe we'll come up in quick fire questions.
Hopefully.
Stuart Briggsy 45 has asked, which side has failed to live up to pre-season expectations? Now, we are aware that we might be revisiting some of the same sides if we stay in the Premier League. So we're gonna foray out, aren't we, Doogie? We're gonna start in La Liga with Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, because there was quite a belief by a lot of people that they could mount a serious title challenge this season. Obviously, Real Madrid had been through 2 managers last year, or were on to their 3rd by the back end of the year. Barcelona fans were pretty unhappy with Valverde's sort of rigid tactics and Champions League displays. It looked like a title challenge could be on, but their summer actually suggested that they're at the start of a massive overhaul of their squad. So they obviously lost Griezmann, which is a big loss. He's their top scorer for 4 or 5 years. They lost Luka Hernandez and Rodri, who are almost just as crucial, to be honest, because I think Luka Hernandez and Rodri, well, Rodri in particular was emerging as one of the best, up-and-coming defensive midfielders in the world and played so well in the back half of the year last year for Atleti. Luka Hernandez, big loss as well. Also lost Gelson Martins, not such a loss, but then Godin, Felipe Luis, Juanfran, a lot of experience. Spent the majority of that Griezmann money on bringing in João Felix, brought in Kieran Trippier, Hermoso, Renan Lodi, so completely sort of overhauling the defence. And the signs were actually, if you looked into it, that 18-19 sort of flattered to deceive, rather, sorry. So they finished 8 points above 3rd place Real Madrid, but it was their lowest points tally since 2012-13. Their 55 goals scored was their lowest since 2011-12, and they conceded the most amount of goals in a league season since 2012-13. So it wasn't a vintage year at all. The deficiencies of Real Madrid made them look a lot better. And it just hasn't worked out for them at all this year. They are 13 points behind Real Madrid. They're 4th. They're behind Getafe. They're only 4 points clear of 4 teams. I think it's Valencia, Sevilla, Villarreal, and Real Sociedad. So they could easily be 8th before you know it. And they've only won 10 of their opening 23 league games. And have just been pretty mediocre, at least in front of goals. So their defence is still really solid. I think it's the 2nd best in Europe in terms of goals conceded. I think they've conceded 15 league goals. But they've only scored 23 goals, which is 13th in La Liga.
Alvaro Morata's really struggling yet again, isn't he? Massively underperforming
But
next year.
so's Felix, so's Correa,
Yeah.
so's Costa when
Well,
he's playing.
Felix is, Morata is actually just struggling to finish, it seems like, because his expected goals per 90 is 0.64, which remarkably is actually pretty similar to Suarez and Messi this year. And Suarez has got 11 goals, Messi's on 14, Morata's on 7, and I think 5 of those have been headers, which is what has always been a massive strength of his. But his shot conversion rate is about 15%, which is below league average of 18%. João Felix has struggled. He hasn't scored a goal since September. I've got a lot of sympathy for him.
Yeah, did we expect him to struggle to an extent, though, on this sofa?
But I don't think he's been actually struggling. Again, I think the problem is mostly finishing. When you look at his expected goal numbers are also really solid. And so the fact that he's creating chances and getting on the end of chances, I think is kind of enough for now. And you will hope the finishing ticks up. Because when you watch Atleti, it's not like something magical is happening that stops them finishing. It just feels like they're just having a bad run of finishing. And Morata might be a career slightly below average finisher. Felix, we don't really know that yet.
So numbers slightly up on the start of the season when they were converting everything but producing barely a shot at all. I think it was around 6, wasn't it, or 7 for the first
it's a long
10
time.
games.
But big chances,
It's crazy,
I think, right?
yeah, high quality chances, but less chances, but fewer chances.
But yeah, there's still question marks over their forward line. Angel Correa's had a very good last month. I think he's now on 4 goals and 3 assists. But Morata has still only scored 20 goals in all competitions in a season once. Diego Costa is now looking, increasingly done. He's got 14 goals in 59 games for Atleti. João Felix struggling as well. They've got Lamar issues. It looks like he's going to leave this summer.
That's very 50-50.
Sorry?
That's very 50-50.
Hey, there we go. So it looks like they...
Clang.
I mean, I don't want to heap too much criticism on them, because as I said in the sort of start of this segment, it seemed like they're in the start of a rebuild, and it will maybe take 2 or 3 years. But they just got to have some patience with it for now, because their defence is still really solid, but their attack is just not going at all.
So do we think they have the right personnel for this rebuild? Have they recruited, well enough to turn around their fortunes in 6 months' time, say the start of next season? Do we anticipate them being the third best team in Spain again?
Yeah, well, I think you'd probably say that they've wasted some money in some departments, but actually their signings have been pretty solid. So I don't think João Felix is necessarily a waste of money. I think it's too early to say that. Hermoso, I think, will be a very good signing for them.
Same.
Felipe has been very good for them this year.
Lodi.
He's had to finish. Lodi's been very good. Trippier's been very good. But Vitolo, massive waste of money. Lamar, huge waste of money so far.
But they could still probably get
Costa
a
as
decent
well.
amount of money back for Lamar, couldn't they?
Yeah.
You hope
Still
so.
links with Arsenal.
I reckon they'll get a little. I don't think they'll get that, but they'll get a little bit of money back for Costa as well. I mean, like,
He's 31. I
The
don't know
big-
who's buying him.
Maybe from Brazil?
yeah, that's what I think will
China.
happen. The biggest concern, I think, is that Party can go for supposedly 50 million euros. Then you worry about them, because on the other hand, I suppose they have Llorente, who's barely played, but you still. Party has been their best defensive midfielder. He's been their best progressive passer this season. Like, he's certainly an amazing dribbler from the centre of the park. Like, Party can pretty much do everything.
Yeah.
And if you take him out, you've still got talented midfielders. But Saúl's having a down year, Koke's having a down year. And I don't really see anybody else quite filling that role.
You feel for Simeone if he was to lose Party, having lost Rodri, Gabby having retired, 3-4 years ago? Retired or moved on?
Went to Qatar, I think.
Can't
I thought
quite
he-
remember.
oh, yeah, he did,
effectively,
didn't he? He did a
effectively the
year.
same thing,
Yeah.
aren't they? I'm sure his accountant would disagree. So is he still the man to progress Atleti, to usher in a new era?
We had a brief chat about it in a quick fire on Continental Club about a month or two ago. I'm not sure whether.
Obviously, we're not questioning his credentials.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether
Extraordinary manager.
necessarily if you put an attacking manager in that Atleti team, are they going to be better than Real Madrid or Barcelona? I think that's what you're looking for. I'm not quite sure. But I think every manager's got a shelf life, probably. I don't see him being in charge for 15 years. What's he done? I think he was appointed in 2011, so he's coming up to 10. And a fantastic stint, like Europa Leagues, Champions League finals, La Liga title, etc., Copa del Rey.
And you've never heard from the Atleti hierarchy. There's never been a sniff, has there, about a style change or a system change, similar to Allegri at Juventus. That was actioned because they wanted to play a different brand of football, right? A more progressive brand of football. But Atleti have always been seemingly very happy with what he produces.
I'd be surprised if they got rid of him. He might want a new challenge, but I don't think they'll get rid of him.
Yeah. I suppose I should have probably wrapped that into the same question. Maybe he sees his chances of winning, silverware slightly higher elsewhere. Let's move on to Arsenal then. And I'm sorry to do this to you again. So Atleti, we're talking about Atleti as a team in transition. Arsenal feel like, maybe 6 months behind where Atleti are, maybe even further. But do you now feel like you have at least the majority of the pieces in place to catch up on, say, the top 5 teams in the Premier League?
I don't know if we have the majority of the pieces in place, but we've rebalanced the age of the squad, which means that I think it will be easier going forward. Like, I think a really good summer window could actually make the squad very competitive. Like, not for the league, but I think it could easily catch up with Chelsea. I don't think it's hard to overtake Man United. Certainly Spurs and Leicester Leicester definitely are gettable. But I don't know, going in after the summer, I think people were a little bit overconfident. Like, I really liked the summer window, but I didn't like the Iwobi sale, and I do still think that was like a big mistake. Like, to lose that balancing player who can play as an attacking midfielder, but is a little bit more kind of vigorous, can defend a little bit more. I think that would have been useful for Arsenal right now. So I think I called it a B- window on the Games Gone Mad at the time. But I think as well, we didn't really reckon with how bad a job Emery was going to do. Like, I do think that there's a massive problem with confidence in the squad. And actually, I've been really pleased with how Arteta's gone since he's been in. Like, has it been spectacular? No. On the other hand, we haven't lost a game since the Chelsea defeat. That's the only game we've lost under Arteta. And defensively, we've been a lot better. We've gone from conceding, I think we were at one point the second most shots in the league. We were conceding over 16, 17.
I think it was around 14 when Emery left, wasn't it?
14,
14,
by the time he left, or I think that might have included the Lundberg time maybe, but it's now at 11 shots we concede a game, which is like 7th best in the league. That's pretty good, given that the defensive personnel are fairly bad, and
there's been injuries.
And you've seen a kick on from Torreira, and actually Aubameyang's numbers, his expected goal numbers per 90 are the best they've been under any manager, including Wenger, since he came to Arsenal. That's pretty exciting. Obviously, Martinelli looks like a star. So I kind of think that Tierney comes back and that's better. Saliba comes in and that's better. You get in another central midfielder, because I think it was a little bit unlucky to lose Ceballos for that whole kind of bedding in period of Arteta. Yeah. He's only just coming back now. I think that you can kind of see how it would work. My only concern is, in the summer, you're going to need a central midfielder, at least one, maybe two if you let Xhaka go. You also are going to need to replace your strikers, because I think you're going to have to sell Aubameyang. Aubameyang's going to have a year left on his deal and he's not going to sign a new one. So you're going to have to sell him. And you might want to sell Lacazette as well, as it's your last chance to get money, but then you need at least one senior striker, because as good as Martinelli is, he's 18. Yeah. Like, he can't go into next season with the intention that he's going to play like 3,000 minutes. That's ridiculous.
I'd be worried about getting rid of both in one window.
I know, so would I. But when Lacazette's got 2 years left on his deal and he's 29,
and he's not playing,
when Aubameyang's got 1 year left on his deal, well, on the other hand, that could be an argument to keep him, because you're going to get less than he's worth. And he is clearly a good player, but his numbers are the worst they've been under any manager since he came to Arsenal. So I don't know. I think that in the summer you've got to go out and get a striker, and probably also want a centre back, and you probably also want a central midfielder. And those are 3 very pricey additions.
Yeah, so a mixture of problems, but it's probably becoming somewhat clearer. I mean, first question, have you been pleased with the approach of shoring up the defence at the expense of the attack? Because you have scored 19 fewer goals than this stage at this stage of the season compared to last season. Currently, obviously 10th, only 4 points off, 10 points off 4th, I guess, sorry. 6 behind Spurs in 6th place. But you rank 14th for shots per game on 11.2 and 13th for expected goals.
Is that just under Arteta for the whole thing?
That's the whole year.
That's the whole year. So maybe not a fair reflection of Arteta's stint in charge, but does it fill you with confidence when Arteta's very clearly addressing defence first?
Yeah, I think so. I think it just shows that the things that Arteta has done have all made sense to me. They haven't all been perfectly successful. Like the Burnley game, the last game was probably our worst performance under him. But to be fair, we've also had 2 red cards in the time under him. So I think that also affects these stats. We might potentially have seen a little bit more, not a lot, but a little bit more if that hadn't happened. Yeah, I don't have a particular issue with it. And also I think that if you compare it to last season, that's a little bit misleading, because last year we were massively overperforming our expected goals in attack. Aubameyang and Lacazette were having good seasons, and so was everybody else in the squad. And we got really lucky in the first third of the season. This year, I'd say the damage was probably done mostly under Emery. And while the attack has been poor under Arteta, you at least see a structure where you think, oh, I can easily see how you swap out a couple of pieces and this gets better. Like if you had a fully fit player like Ceballos, somebody who can dribble, pass, create a little bit, playing instead of Xhaka, I think that would be good. If you had Tierney playing as left back with his delivery, I think that would be great. I think there are lots of ways, and also if you just could replace Ozil, because I think now it's clearly time to move Ozil on if you can. If you could replace him with I'm not saying you could get this type of guy, but say like a Ziyech who's gone to Chelsea, or Odegaard.
Fabio Ruiz?
Well, I don't think we'll get him either, but that kind of player, Lorenzo Pellegrini, is supposedly available for 30 million euros. If you could get a young, creative, attacking player, you can immediately see how you slot those people in, and this immediately looks better.
Okay.
Ozil doesn't have an open play assist this season. You put in a guy like Ziyech, and suddenly you think, and somebody like Tierney, and suddenly you've got balls into the box from basically every angle.
Very quickly on recruitment then, and I'll ask you the same question about Atleti. You said you wanted a central midfielder and a centre forward. Give me your dream candidates and your realistic candidates.
I actually would probably target the attacking midfielder. For central midfielder, it looks like we're looking at Pape Gueye from Le Havre in Ligue 2, who actually looks like a really exciting player. But yeah, somebody like Songare or whatever, I don't think you have to go out and get a genuine superstar, because you do have Guendouzi and you do have Torreira, and you still do have Xhaka. Attacking mid, the absolute dream would be Odegaard. It's possible that if Chelsea decide they don't want him, you might not have a rival for him. Like, I'm not sure who else is going to come in. Failing that, Pellegrini would be great. Striker, I have real trouble with, because Arsenal are in this zone that's difficult where you can't imagine them getting a Timo Werner. You could imagine them getting a Moussa Dembele. I think they could get Moussa Dembele, but he's having a pretty bad season. That's a really difficult one. Striker, I think, is underpopulated as a field right now, and I would worry about where to go. But maybe there's somebody you could poach from a team that goes down. You know, like if Norwich goes down, try and get Buendia to play as your attacking mid. If I don't know, God, if West Ham were to go down, then try and get Seb Haller. Like, that would be fantastic. Or Anderson. They would both be great for Arsenal.
I think if Moussa Dembele is going to cost you 50 or 60 million pounds, which he likely is, as Chelsea had a bid of 40 million pounds or 40 million euros rejected, then you could definitely prize Odsonne Edouard out of Celtic for 30, 35, and I actually think he has a higher ceiling.
Well, he's having a better season, certainly.
Higher ceiling than Moussa Dembele, but that's my kind of token Celtic input.
Or Osimhen from Lille, he'd be fantastic.
Yeah, a bit of a gamble at this point, maybe.
Yeah, but I think you kind of have to do that. Like, Arsenal now, there are so few top young strikers around, and a load of people are going to move for them this summer, because look at the strikers who are coming to the end of their time at the top because of age now. Benzema, Aguero, Aubameyang, Ronaldo, Higuain, Suarez, Lewandowski. Like, as good as Lewandowski's been. Like, all these guys are into their 30s. And so everyone's going to be looking around for strikers. And fundamentally, except for very regular football and decent wages, Arsenal can offer those things. They can't offer Champions League football. So,
and when you look at actually prolific centre forwards this season, it is guys who are kind of in the region of 27 to 31, isn't it? Apart from Timo Werner. And a lot of media outlets have been reporting that Liverpool are considering a £51 million move for him, because if they don't pay that now, then I believe that clause in his contract it fizzles out, does no longer exist. Okay. So he might be available for in that region, bargain. But the reports were a little bit muddled. So who knows? Atletico Madrid-wise?
Yeah, well, we actually fixed them on the podcast, so have a listen to that. Comes out the week before last. But yeah, I think they need a backup left-back for Renan Lodi, or someone to compete with him, because they're pretty thin in that area. So I think I suggested Sergio Reguilon from Real Madrid. Obviously, Hakimi's coming back. They've got Mendy, they've got Marcelo. They probably don't need Reguilon when his loan is ended. Marcelo's a perfectly able backup for Mendy, who's really hit flying form in the last month or so. So I go Reguilon in at left back. That's probably about 30, 35. And then a striker, definitely, and a wide attacker. And we did suggest Ziyech for Atletico Madrid, which would I thought been perfect. Joe actually put forward Depay, who you could get on quite a reduced deal with that injury. But I'd probably look at Buendia from Norwich, or someone for the forward line like Raul Jimenez or Kramaric. I think both of those would be really good additions for Atletico Madrid, and in the right price bracket, because I think, similar to Arsenal, I'm not sure these elite forwards we're talking about, the Sanchos that might leave this window, Mbappe, obviously, Werner, they're not going to go to Atleti. So it needs to be a slight bracket down, and I think Raul Jimenez would be a fantastic signing. I really like Raul Jimenez.
Yeah, I mean, having paid 30 million euros for him at 28,
he is quite old,
27.
Didn't they own him before?
They did, yeah, and it didn't work out, and then he went to Benfica.
I don't know, man. I think like that role really maximises him at Wolves, and it's too much money for a guy of his age.
Do they make
I'm not sure. It depends how much he'd cost.
Maybe they don't make that move having the fingers burnt with Diego Costa as well, paying 50, 60 million pounds for someone who is 28. Although he was injury prone, Raul Jimenez's fitness has been great, hasn't it?
Exactly.
He's played a lot of football over the last 2 seasons, and I think he's a little bit underrated, actually.
Oh, I think he's quite overrated now, because he's a perfectly fine striker, but he's also like, Wolves paid 38 mil for him. How much are Atleti going to be asked for? Like, they're going if you
45, 50.
There's no way that Wolves say, like, we'll just take a 7 million profit, so we have to go and get another striker.
Potentially.
His
Maybe
value
a bit
is
more than that.
astronomical to Wolves. Very the disparity between his market value and his value to Wolves is going to be huge, isn't it?
Yeah. I genuinely think he'd be worth it, though. I think he's at least got another 4 years, and the way Atleti have splurged money on people in the past for very little return, I think you'll at least get 4 years of solid service out of Jimenez.
They've got a lot more ball progression in the form of Adama Traore this season, so Jimenez isn't having to drop as deep. But I think
he's not scoring more goals, though.
He's He's not, but he's going at a very decent rate, isn't he?
He's all right. Like,
I
but
think he's got 18 in all competitions.
But do you?
Pretty
But,
impressive.
but in all competitions.
Big Europa League campaign.
But also, do you go and spend like 50 million euros for somebody who's not as good as your starting centre forward? Like, that to me is like.
But that's
odd
he's
move.
he's someone to strengthen the forward line. I'm not saying he's started ahead of Morata.
No, but you have to start him if you're going to pay that amount of money. I think.
I think
if
if you want to compete for the La Liga title or Champions League football, you need more than one top.
I
player in
agree.
each
I agree.
position.
I just think that you can spend that money better. Like, for instance, if they'd gone in for Ziyech, like that would have been a better use of that money to me, because like that's a guy who's going to get you shots out of nowhere, who's going to create as well, and then you could play Felix as a forward. You could even bring back Yannick Ferreira Carrasco. Like, it just feels to me like there are better bargains to be had. Like, look at Adolfo Gaish, like out of the Argentinian league, who's like a similar kind of like big target man who gets loads of shots in the box. 22 years old. Like, I think that there's when you only have one piece to add to your squad, you can afford to go and say, you know what, this is the guy, 50 million, that'll change our squad.
This is the third position down on my list, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'd go like left back and wide player first.
I mean, there might be disappointed that they missed out on Bergwijn for £27 million. I think that could be very, very good business for Spurs. There's someone that could quite easily, I think, transition to play down the centre. I mean, he does cut in an awful lot, doesn't he? He did for PSV on that left-hand side. Has that kind of very Memphis Depay feel about him, and Spurs have got him for a cut price fee, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's a difficult system to fit in as a wide player, though, because suddenly you're playing against, rather than someone like João Felix playing against. Last year he was running at defences. This year, starting from a deeper position, which you've seen from his like passes completed in the opposition half, like almost halving.
And you've got no
he's
support.
playing so much deeper. You've got two lines to dribble through, and like his dribble success rate has dropped to about 30% from
His
about
touches
55.
inside the box have bottomed out.
Exactly.
As
So
well,
like I feel like that's why it's so harsh to criticise João Felix. Or criticise really any wide player at Atletico Madrid, because it's so difficult to be that miracle player that's going to dribble past three players and then score.
Yeah. They do play extremely narrow, don't they? I have got Napoli down as my suggestion to take us to Italian shores, and they've been entertaining to watch this season, a lot of the time for the wrong reasons. Of course, off the pitch occurrences probably underselling what's happened, has cost them a little bit, hasn't it? Carlo Ancelotti put together a very competent side last season that, by expected points, should have been in the hunt for a title. But of course, he is Mr. Continuity, isn't he? Napoli should have won a title under Maurizio Sarri, and now Maurizio Sarri finds himself sort of sandwiched between Inter Milan, who are top as of Thursday at the time of filming, and Lazio, who haven't lost in 18 games in the league.
Run,
Absolutely ridiculous. So Sarri might miss out yet again. Inter are kind of going from strength to strength, despite losing actually in the first leg. Was it a Coppa Italia game? Against Napoli. But Napoli languishing down in 10th, I think, at the time of recording, behind the likes of AC Milan, which is pretty frightening considering their outlay in the summer. I mean, brought in Hirving Lozano, their second biggest ever signing, for 34 million. Manolas came in for 32 million. Murray, the goalkeeper, who they're rotating with David Ospina at the moment, aren't they? January additions include Lobotka, who we liked a couple of years ago at Celta Vigo, but having looked at his numbers since, not sure if he warranted a move for up to £20 million. Like, he's kind of a bit of an anomaly sometimes, isn't he, in central midfield? And they brought in Dema as well.
That's a great signing.
Who is playing some very good football at the age of 28, probably deserved that move, didn't he? So they beat Juventus in recent weeks, they beat Inter Milan. They beat Sampdoria 4-2. That was a really, really entertaining game. If you've not seen Quagliarella's volley in that game, go and watch it. Absolutely delightful. Didn't celebrate as well, which if I scored a goal like that, all my kit would come off.
He's used to the screen.
Because he played for Napoli for 1 year. Not sure I'm behind that. But yeah, stats-wise, still okay, despite playing under Gattuso. We thought that they would shore up massively defensively, because that is what happens with Gattuso sides. They tend to be pretty solid in defence. He had it at AC, where I think his win percentage was around 50%. I'm not sure if any manager has achieved that there since. Maybe Pioli's doing okay now. But actually, on the attacking end, is where they're, at least numbers-wise, where they're still doing okay. They're just not converting. Maybe in a similar sense to who we were speaking about earlier with that problem, just not converting.
Atleti.
Atletico Madrid then to an extent. I mean, second for shots per game on 19.1. Fifth for shots conceded per game 12.3. I don't think they have Champions League ambitions at this point, but certainly Europa League football, given the outlay that we mentioned. And they're 6th on expected points. So I suppose haven't been getting the rub of the green to an extent, but 22 points behind where they were at this stage in the season. So pretty catastrophic. And the stats, are pretty ugly. And the long-term futures of key players, who admittedly are aging out a little bit, have now been brought into question. Mertens and Callahan, free agents this summer. Zielinski, Milic, Hysaj, Llorente, their contracts are all up in 2021. I'm not sure they'll be too concerned about Llorente. And there's still the big question mark over Koulibaly. Like, will he get his big money move this summer?
They should have sold him. They should have sold him 2 years ago.
For the 100 mil?
Yeah, it's moronic to keep him.
I still think I'll get 100 mil.
They massively overpaid for Manolas as well.
Do you think anyone could still do with Koulibaly, to the tune of 70 to 80?
Definitely, I think Man United will still be interested in. Man City looking for a centre-back this summer as well.
You wouldn't pay that at his age. Like, I think it'd take quite a stupid club to do it at his age. Like, he's a very good centre-back, but like...
No, I think you've got a slightly longer lifespan if you're a centre-back though.
Depends what system you play in. Like, I think if you're at, say, Man City, like, you have to cover so much ground you don't have as long a kind of...
No, but I think he'd be fine at United for at least 5 years.
Yeah, but United have gone and paid that for a guy who plays on the left side of defence. They've already done that. Like, do you bring in Koulibaly who plays in that same role, who also... I don't know, it's more about you can use the money better. It's not always like the signing is bad or whatever, though that would be a huge overpay for Koulibaly. But it's more that you could just use the money in a better way. And Napoli really need to sort out the age of their squad. Like, it's really old because they basically for ages said, no, we're not going to sell our players. We're not a selling club, blah, blah, blah. And as a result, then you end up with an old squad. And like, you reel off the stats and the stats are like perfectly decent, but they've kind of stood still while the rest of the league's got better. And now you look at that squad and you think, okay, this squad should actually be producing more. Like, is Roma's squad better than the Napoli squad? Absolutely not. Yeah. Like, not at all. That Napoli squad's so talented. Fabian Ruiz, Alan in midfield, Zielinski as well. The attacking line is old, but it's great.
And Paolo
Even the defence.
Fonseca, I think the talent's probably more suited to him at Roma than the talent is to Gattuso at Napoli. Like,
well, Gattuso's not a good manager as well.
To me, this is a really weird marriage. It's probably a marriage of convenience. I'm not sure he'll be there, beyond the end of the season. And now, if you're at the start of the season, it was like, how do you fit 6 into 4, right? Because there wasn't that much that separated the likes of Roma, Atalanta. I mean, Atalanta have been probably more competent than Roma.
Yeah, I'd say the 4 best teams have been the 4 best teams.
Yeah, in the last 3 or 4 years. But it was like, wow, like, who is going to get Champions League football now that Fonseca has improved Roma? Now that Ancelotti, can build on his very good first year, his maiden campaign in Napoli, and yeah, they've just bottomed out. And I think now, if you're one of those or a top side in Europe, some of that talent is ripe for the picking.
De Laurentiis has made some very stupid decisions. Like, I don't think you should have got rid of Ancelotti. He basically waged the fact that they would. The benefit of Ancelotti was they were through in the Champions League. They'd done well to, they'd taken 4 points off Liverpool, the best team in the world this year, at least on result. And they basically waged that he wouldn't get them far enough in the. If they went far in the Champions League, their league form might suffer, and they wouldn't get into they wouldn't qualify for the Champions League for next year, despite making a run to, the quarters, the semis, which you could see a side of Napoli's quality making a run that far in the Champions League. I know their league's position doesn't suggest it, but Roma made the semi-finals 2 years ago. Like, teams in the quarterfinals and semi-finals of the Champions League, often it's just a good draw or two. But he's made promises to Alan and Koulibaly that they can leave this summer. Mertens is going with Callahan, and suddenly you've got like 4 pretty crucial players to replace all in one window, and you've sacked the best manager that you're probably going to get for the next 5 years in Ancelotti, and all the players are supposedly devastated. Not necessarily in a criticism of Gattuso, but they're just, they really liked Ancelotti. Ancelotti is a fantastic manager, and he's loved wherever he's been. So I think De Laurentiis is a hell of a lot to answer for. He's like completely pulled the rug out from under his project.
Yeah, now you have players like Lozano, who came in, for huge fees, and no doubt they had, a vision of him being a long-term replacement for Mertens. I don't know, they've kind of flipped between a 4-4-2 and a 4-3-3 this year. They've been mainly sticking with 4-3-3, I guess. You've got, if Gattuso leaves, you've got these expensive assets who are supposed to replace long-term players, effectively having to change the way they play 2 or 3 times despite being at the club less than a year, 2 years. Fabian Ruiz is just embedded himself very quickly, hasn't he? He is like
Although he was better last year, I would say.
he's a bit of a star. Yeah, but given
But the team-
tumultuous,
The team is a lot better, yeah.
But they've now got just like depreciating assets. That's why they need to sell guys like Koulibaly, because like they don't actually have too many like young players who people really, really want now. They have Zielinski, they have Ruiz, and they have Lozano. Insigne is now 28. He might be 29.
I thought he was 27.
No, I think he's 28 now.
All right.
But even still, like, you're not going to let Insigne go because Insigne is like Neapolitan. Milik would be a great asset if he didn't have like this patchy injury record, which means nobody's going to pay what he's probably worth, because he is actually an amazing striker. Like, I don't know, you kind of look around and you think, get some of these old guys out the door now, because if you hold on to them for another season, you know. And the problem is with De Laurentiis, he's the kind of guy that if somebody offers like 10 or 20 mil below what he expects, he would just, yeah, exactly. Whereas actually sometimes you just have to say, okay, that's the best we're going to do. We've just got to sell that guy and move on.
Okay, so of our 3 clubs that we've chosen, who do we think is the closest to realising their potential, and who's the furthest behind?
Atleti are basically.
I'd probably say Atleti, Arsenal, Napoli.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty fair. So yeah, Napoli have made the biggest backward step. Congratulations, Napoli, you are winners. Let's move on to the quickfire questions section. At Real Jack Jones kicks us off then, and he's asked, do you think Liverpool should sell one of our front 3 this summer, and if so, who? Personally, I'd go Werner. Incredible business by Liverpool, selling other people's players. I think he means personally I'd go for Werner. Like we discussed before, that has been mooted, but not the main part of the question here. So if you were to sell one of that, holy trinity, who would it be, gentlemen?
it has to be Firmino. Firmino's the oldest and has the lowest output. Like, Firmino, he's a great player, but people talk like, oh my God, how do you replace Firmino? He's irreplaceable. He's super replaceable, like, relative to the other 2. The other 2 are like, Mane's a genuinely amazing wide player, and Salah has like world-class output. Like, Firmino is a great striker, but even in a team which is absolutely tearing apart the league, he still doesn't score a huge number of goals. And yes, that's because he does facilitation, but there are other players who can do that and still score goals. So I just think you go for the oldest guy, and I think actually they probably should do it this summer, because it's better to do it a year too early than a year too late. And I don't know, like they've done so well to build this squad really intelligently. The only way they could screw it up is if then they held on to all those players for a bit too long and started slipping down. They should just take advantage of the fact that everyone sees them as the best team in the world. They're going to win the title. They've won the Champions League last year, and go out and get a Werner.
Yeah, it certainly feels like they're going to do that, Doogie.
Yeah, I think this has just come up because Bayern Munich are supposedly interested in Firmino. It's quite a weird move for them, because they don't. I suppose maybe they're thinking that if Coutinho, if they don't go for him, but I'd actually sell Mane just because I think you're going to get almost, well, maybe not double the amount, but I think Firmino's probably got 90 million, whereas Mane you might get 150.
90 million for Firmino would be mental.
Well, that's
that'd be amazing.
The price from Bayern is 85, so you could get 90. But I think Mane you could get like 140, and then bring in Sancho or Werner for a third of that price apparently. So I'd probably go for Mane. I feel like he's the replaceable one. I think actually Salah is the much better player, if I'm brutally honest. But I think Mane's fantastic and has had a great last 2 years. But I think you could get another Mane quite easily, whereas I'm not sure you could get another Salah.
But I think Liverpool fans probably love Salah the least. Like, I think they love Mane the most.
We just talked about that off camera. My Liverpool fan friends, well, I've only got a couple, thankfully, they prefer Salah by distance.
But I think maybe people, do they actually prefer him, or they think he's like more important?
Because I feel like they think he's more important, maybe.
Yeah, because I feel like Liverpool fans, from what I see, seem to have much more of a connection with Mane. And so as a result, I think they'd probably rather keep Mane over Salah, even though Salah has world-class output and Mane has just very good output. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, who cares? Just sell someone.
Yeah, I mean, particularly at the start of the season, I think the relationship with Mane was at fever pitch, wasn't it? And he secured them points in spectacular fashion, which helped. For me, the weird thing in this equation is selling Firmino, which I think would be the right thing to do, purely because I'm going for the oldest striker here, and I think he has reached peak valuation. And Liverpool play, they kill teams in the transition, don't they? And Mane is crucial to that. Salah is crucial to that. as good as Firmino is at dropping deep and linking up play, that's less important in Liverpool's hierarchy of needs than absolutely burning people on the break. So I would go for Firmino. But I don't think you sell Firmino then necessarily bring in Werner as a replacement. Werner obviously played on the left at Stuttgart, played on the left at Leipzig before Thingy arrived. What's his name? Not Hasenhüttl. Before Nagelsmann arrived. Before Julian Nagelsmann arrived from Hoffenheim. This season, Nagelsmann has been playing him on the right, and his creative numbers have gone up. His shots have gone up. He's not having as many, I think, shots inside the box, or his shot location shifted a little bit from the centre to the right as a result of that. Contributed to a lot of goals, though, hasn't he?
He's like the most creative striker in the world.
So he's playing in a really proficient system, really attack-minded system. I think has 6 assists. But yeah, he's excelling as a striker come creator, whereas from a wide position, whereas Firmino kind of very different, creative in very different ways, I guess. So I could see them signing Werner as like, okay, at one point, one of our wide players is going to be shifted in the next 2 years, and maybe we do just play him in the middle at times until then, or just split those minutes across the forward line. But I don't see them being like for like. Would sell Firmino, don't necessarily think that means bringing Werner straight away, but I suppose if Werner is available, you just kind of get him, don't you? At Man City, Croydon has asked, what centre-back should Man City sign? You look more like a centre-back out of the pair of you, so I'm going to ask you this first.
I do, probably, actually. I think they probably need to sign 2, because it looks like John Stones might leave, because he's had not a great last 12 months probably, and seems to be really out of favour with Pep Guardiola as well. I think when you're getting picked behind Fernandinho consistently, that's quite a worry for someone who was, 3-4 years ago, England's best up-and-coming prospect. Centre-backs they should sign. That is quite tricky, actually. None immediately coming to mind. I don't think there's that many good options in the Premier League. Upamecano's probably, I think, the one that you could get relatively easily, 60, 70. I just think absolutely phenomenal player. Like if he hadn't been playing last weekend against Bayern Munich, I know he gave away that penalty, which was then rescinded, but he was amazing. He was awesome. That, yeah. Like his blocks, his reading of the game, his distribution. He's so fast. He's so able to bring the ball out of the line. He's like the perfect Man City player. I don't know whether maybe because that's more Laporte's role, whether that necessarily work, but I think Pep Guardiola could coach Upamecano into potentially, one of the best centre-backs of his generation.
Okay,
so
cool.
I like that.
Yeah, he's a very good player. What would you throw into the mix, Pat?
It's frustrating because I actually think there are more good young left-sided centre-backs around at the moment than you have Laporte. I think Upamecano is a perfect shout for them, really. I mean, I think people like Akanji are going to be a bit overpriced, as good as he is. I don't know, you might want to look at Mukiele as well if you're looking at Leipzig, just because he can play centre-back and he can also play right-back. And having that versatility in the way Man City play seems perfect. You have somebody who's somewhere between those two positions at all times. And Mukiele is like incredibly athletic, really good passer. Again, like great anticipation. Like just has the combination of brains and physical attributes, which I think like you absolutely have to play centre-back for Pep.
Well, they might need a left back and they might need to replace Sane as well, so it's a busy summer.
Yeah. Maybe Jonathan Tah. He's come back on my radar from Leverkusen. Peter Bosz obviously demanding in a similar sense to his players, and he wants them to play that expansive style of football and quite, say, daring. Like Pep's whole thing is that it's to limit shots, isn't it? But it certainly is demanding on the defence, the way they like to distribute out from the back, and he's pretty adept at that. So maybe Jonathan Tah. Last quick-fire question then, before we move on to personal questions, is from Alfie Robinson 9. Who do you think will be the biggest transfer of the summer and why? So just to give you a few candidates, Sancho, Ziyech's in the bag already, isn't he? Timo Werner we've already discussed. So is it just Jadon?
I think it's Sancho. I can't really see Mbappe leaving, if I'm totally honest, because it'll take such a monster fee. So I don't have anything interesting. I'm going to go with Jadon Sancho, 120 mil.
But 2 years left on his contract this summer. I think a lot of guys will go, but I think they'll go for like the 60 to 100. Like Aubameyang will go, Coutinho could go, Werner will go. But Sancho, will be over 100 mil. The question is whether Lautaro Martinez goes for a similar amount, which he could. But given that they got 130 for Dembele, I think they're going to ask more than that for Sancho because he's better.
If Inter win the league, I think he'll be pretty keen to stay there with Romelu Lukaku, with Antonio Conte.
Even if Barca come in for him.
Barca is just a complete mess at the moment.
Yeah, but you could play Messi.
As an Argentinian.
And you know what I mean? He's played with him at international level, but you'd be like, I'm going to go to Barcelona, I'm going to play Messi. Like, it's going to be amazing.
I suppose it depends on how Setien finishes the season there. If they're like, if he comes second to Real Madrid
don't make the Champions League semis or something.
And that forward line is just absolutely packed with talent still, isn't it?
In Barca's?
Yeah, will they want to bring in someone and kind of damage Ansu Fati's ascendancy?
Yeah, because he's just a kid. Like, I mean, Fati's numbers are not like noticeably better than any of the other young players who've come through at Barca over the last few years, like the Munirs of the world. Like, I really like Fati as well, but like he's obviously not going to be like a starter, and you can't say, well, we can't bring in like a top quality forward because we might stunt the progress of a 17-year-old. Like, Suarez is now old. He's still good, but he's old. Griezmann was a horrible signing. Dembele, it's doubtful whether he'll ever come back to full fitness or whether he's ever going to entirely have a place for him there. They might bring Coutinho back, but even still, I think there's 100% of space for a centre forward because they're looking for a centre forward now.
I mean, I feel like if Coutinho leaves, and like the thing with that Ansu Fati is, I guess that doesn't definitively spell the end for Luis Suarez. Bringing in Martinez does, and I don't think, I don't know, maybe, you know, rightly or wrongly, maybe politically, that they would do that to Suarez at the moment, maybe the year after. That's why maybe they'll be happier to kind of split the minutes with Ansu Fati and Luis Suarez rather than replace Suarez outright now.
You just can't rely on a 17-year-old that much if you want to win things. You just can't do it. Like, unless that 17-year-old is like Mbappe, and even Mbappe at 17 was like not amazing.
Well, they won't be relying on him with that. Having the world's best player and then trying to blood a 17-year-old, I suppose, is in many ways the perfect scenario.
But that's what they're trying to do this season, and they have been pretty poor.
Just imagine just adding another £100 million striker to that club. Like, something's got to give, hasn't it? Maybe James Rodriguez as well from Real Madrid. Still not heard a lot about him. I think that could be a smart pickup for someone.
Isco maybe.
We've discussed him at length as well. Yeah, Isco.
Gareth Bale.
Jovic could move on.
Yeah, Gareth Bale.
We might be quite a few out at Real Madrid actually.
They need to clear house a little bit.
Yeah. Let's move into personal questions then, pretty quickly. Maxi Knowles 7. If you had to live on a desert island with one footballer, who would it be? I like this. You going Lee Catamol? Is it that close and shut?
Nah, I love Lee, but nah. Probably my best mate, Michael Antonio. Me and him just doing the worm together. No, seriously, someone probably I want to survive. I think James Milner would probably work quite hard, but
It's true.
He does have a reputation for being quite dull, probably quite unfairly. So I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
Okay.
You probably just go for someone like Clever, who's going to like give you, clever and hardworking, like a De Bruyne type, who you think like, you know, a couple of years ago I'd have said Vincent Kompany. Vincent Kompany is like,
he'd be interesting.
He's going to motivate you, like he's strong, he's tall, which is something I need.
If he passes away, you could use his skull as a ship. And just paddle your way out of inside his skull. Clinton Morrison.
Yeah.
You know, because the silence would be haunting on an island, and
not a footballer.
With Clinton.
Are you bringing Smithy in
with Clinton Morrison?
Football social setup.
Oh, we allowed ex-pros.
Never a moment's silence.
Are we allowed ex-pros?
I love him. He's class.
Yeah, you can have ex-pros.
Oh, because in that case, you'd have somebody who, like, you know, like Socrates became a doctor. That'd be really useful.
Or Cruyff. Just smoking 40 a day with Cruyff for a year.
Socrates would be the worst. Socrates I would kill.
Socrates didn't live very long, so he clearly wasn't a very good doctor.
No, but he got drunk all the time, so he'd be a lot of fun. You'd just get drunk and talk about socialism. Like, what's not to like about Socrates? What do you mean he's not a very good doctor because he didn't live long?
Well, he didn't.
What is that argument?
He didn't look very well. He didn't look after himself very well. I'm always a bit concerned.
Doctors famously don't.
Doctors who are like alcoholics will smoke a lot. I'm just like, did you actually listen to do you listen to yourself?
Do you never make a bad decision where you know that you should do something different?
Of course, but it's not my profession to be healthy and to encourage others
It's not your profession to be healthy.
You all that bloody shit.
That's not what your profession. Oh my god.
I would think I'd go for Scott Brown, and then we could just play. You know, we're just 50-50 each other until someone spontaneously combust. Okay, next question. Ninja Bass favourite cereal. Really quick on this.
I used to love Golden Nuggets, but I was never allowed them.
Why? Why weren't you allowed them? Please
my
elaborate.
mum said they had too big a sugar content.
That's peel you off the wall.
Pure sugar.
Yeah, they are just pure sugar.
Yeah.
And but they are fucking
They
good.
are well good.
Like,
Gold-
really, really good.
Golden Grahams, man. Golden Grahams used to bang, and now there are like cinnamon versions that are not as good.
They have
The
cinnamon.
Golden Grahams, like, there's a similar sort of like sweet honey fake flavour, which is
Most
great.
cereals are class, aren't they? Wheatos, because the milk afterwards is divine.
Yeah.
Even like honey nut cornflakes.
I'm quite dull. I also
Amazing.
like Alpen. Do you guys like Alpen?
No, but I don't mind a dull cereal like Special K.
Yeah,
Bit
yeah.
of sugar on.
Mm-hmm.
Jobs
You
are
put
good.
sugar on Special K.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't that defeat the object of Special K?
No, no.
But
It's like a slimming
I'm just
aid.
unpredictable. I'm a wild.
Socrates
I'm a
would do that.
wild card. Yeah.
Yeah, Socrates would do that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, you know.
Me,
That's what you
Scott
do.
I
Brown,
have him as a doctor, but I'm not going to follow his example.
a family box of Special K on an island. I'm happy. Last,
a good one.
last question then. Top 5 records. What was your worst holiday?
Bloody hell.
Oh, we went to Spain once, and my sister stepped on a sea urchin, and she got the black spikes to the bottom of her foot. I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, it just ruined the holiday.
Oh, I had a bad holiday in Tunisia with my then girlfriend. Like, we both got really ill when we came back. Like,
Dodgy stomach.
she was like passing out in the middle of the night. Like, and
Wow.
I had to take her to hospital, and like she had like a seizure and stuff. Like, that was fucking bad. That was like probably the worst night of my life, when I thought she was gonna die. And I was like sleeping on the floor next to her
wow. That sounds
bed
pretty
in the
legit.
hospital.
That's pretty intense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that beats the sea urchin.
Also, Tunisia is just not all that.
I just, yeah.
We were there during Ramadan, and everyone was kind of miserable and pissed off.
I feel like that about Dubai. Like it's sold as this really fancy, glamorous place, and ultimately it's just completely soulless and too hot most of the time to be outside.
So you're not gonna
Went
go
there to
with
see
your-
my girlfriend's sister, who worked for one of the airlines, and yeah, would be in no rush to go back.
So if James Madison asked you, your new best mate,
Nah.
you're not going.
James Madison's my bet. Oh, they're unfiltered.
Yeah.
What else was there? Probably I reckon my first massive panic attack was after getting slaughtered for a week in Tenerife. And then I had some Japanese food and convinced myself that I was allergic to it. It was teppanyaki. And then went to the hospital and I was like, I'm pretty sure my throat's closing up. And they were like, no, it's not. You're fine. And then they just gave me a vitamin shot in the arse, and I just went home.
So you drunk too much.
I think by the time I got to like the 7th day of getting rattled, I was just on my like last nerve.
Yeah.
And then
What was the vitamin shot for? They were
Dunno.
just like, you just look like
Yeah,
a
just like-
state.
off.
You stink.
I think
Just
just
want to charge you for
it's just
something.
like value for money. Like I wanted to get value out of my EHIC card while it, was still in date. Do you remember EHIC cards?
Yeah,
I do.
I've still got mine somewhere, just in
They
case.
still
Bring
work,
it,
don't they?
bring it in for next week. What was your, worst outing? Let us know in the comments below. That's it. That's Sunday Vibes for another week. Have we got anything to plug, gentlemen?
Go and check out Friday's Continental Club on EFD. We'll talk about Jadon Sancho in greater detail.
The podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. There's a new podcast every week.
Those two things. Bye.